So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like a show of hands on people who have an issue that has not been mentioned since we opened this session. Is there anybody? So I see one. Anybody else? 2, 3. Good. Okay. So let's take the 3 in that order. Just tell me the word.
Hi, my name is Michiel Leenaerts, and it's not a word, it's a name, Snowden. Let's not be naive in all the assumptions.
And not the mountain in Wales, we understand. The gentleman in the middle.
It's 2 words, Mr. Chairman. It's European strategy.
I think that's cruel. The Vice President and the First Vice President haven't heard that. But what is the European strategy? And the third contributor?
Yep. Happiness.
Happiness. Good. I'm glad you mentioned that because I was reading about Robespierre over the weekend and thinking about him as we listened to, especially to the first panel. He had purpose and direction. His 2 key words were freedom and happiness. And in the short term, it didn't quite get us where we hoped for. But since you mentioned happiness, I'll mention Robespierre. I see no other requests for the floor. So let me briefly then, and we shall finish. Sorry, there is one? Yes, one. Press the button. Press.
Just a quick one. Exclusion.
Exclusion. That's a fair word. I think Vice President Timmermans mentioned inclusion, but exclusion was perhaps not mentioned. So let me then very briefly try to give my chairman's take on what we've learned so far. Firstly, I would say overall people are saying we are enthusiastic about the new, not naive, to the point about Mr. Snowden, apprehensive maybe, but not over-anxious. So to the extent we're taking the temperature, this is not phobic and it's not optimistic, it's determined. One of the things which struck me in the first panel was we want help, we want to be sure that we won't be rejected or replaced, so there's a certain existential anxiety, and as Mr. Lamassoure said, we neither want scientism nor obscurantism. Innovators need a fairer regulatory environment, and in any case, we may not need to substitute speed for direction, but several people said we needed to change faster. So then three key messages I take away so far, what to do. I mean, the first is we need to know our collective direction and purpose and ensure that our next generation internet supports us. So better life, safer world, Mr. Hu said. Fulfilling work and maybe a decent income and solving real problems. So, if we keep working around what our direction and purpose is, we have a common basis from which to address the shorter term challenges. Secondly, we really have to get the foundations right. As human beings, do we have the right soft and hard talents? Do we have the right emerging infrastructure technologies? Do we have enough money for the infrastructure, said Mr. Hu? Bottom-up smart specialization, as Mr. Markula said. Everybody can do it, but many people are not doing it at the moment. And thirdly, and this was not something especially on the programme, but a lot of us, perhaps because this is where we're sitting in the European Parliament, said we had to get the process right, engagement, both what Mr. Baracchi Bonvicini said, what Mr. Markula said, helical, open, agile engagement, rough consensus, tech-enabled, exploratory, and pioneering. So that takes me back. If we're exploratory and pioneering, we're not pessimistic. But that still doesn't tell us quite what the direction of travel should be. Now, that's what you can do with old-fashioned sit human beings in a room over 2 hours. And now we're going to thank this panel and then move to the presentation of what data analytics can offer. So, applause for our panelists. Thank you very much. And I would invite Mr. Romeo as the master of the research project and Eva Kelly as the responsible member to join us here on the platform.